Hello and welcome to another edition of Learning in Bits. Today I'm going to start with a basic introduction to Adobe Animate. If you check online, you will see a lot of videos already on YouTube and LinkedIn and so many other platforms talking about the basics and fundamentals of Adobe Animate. But one thing I want to say here is that Adobe Animate was formerly known as Flash Professional, and this software enables you to create high-end quality vector graphics, which are obviously scalable, and they are also reusable, and they adapt to your creation of cartoons, banners, games, and other interactive content. So, having said that, I'm going to spend more time in this session just giving you an overview of the interface. So, here we are in the welcome page for Adobe Animate. I'm just going to click that. You can see there's so many options here. You could create a full HD video or a content for Android or a banner for like a website advert or an iPad or even a canvas. And if you check here, there's so many other options. So, but for this class, I'm just going to click on New File, and Adobe asks me, so what kind of file are we creating today? You can see all the options we have here. We have character animation, social media content. Are you creating for games, educational purposes, adverts, or is it for web? These are all of the templates. Okay, so for this class, we're going to click on character animation. And if you look closely, you have the option of choosing a full HD 1080p or 720 HD or even 4K. All right. And we're going to choose the first option here, which is full HD 1080p. You will see that the details are already entered by default. But one thing we want to do is change the frame rate to 24, which is the most commonly used frame rate for animation. Obviously, you can change the numbers here depending on what you're working on. But for this class, we're going to keep it simple and work with 24 frames. So let's click on Create. Like most software, the best thing you can do for yourself when you start learning a new software is to get familiar with where things are in terms of the interface. So if you look to your left here, you're going to see that these are the tools that can be used in the software. We have the selection tool, we have the free transform tool, we have the lasso tool, we have the brush tool, and so many other tools here that will come in handy eventually. Now at the bottom, we have the timeline. This is where you can determine what happens over time in your animation. Now this area is the most important because this is the stage. It's called the stage, and this is where everything you create gets placed and visible to your audience. Now to the right here, we're going to see the properties panel, and if you click here, you also see a library that contains everything that is connected to your project. Here we have assets that are easily found by default in the program. We get to this eventually. So what we're going to do now is start playing around with certain tools and get familiar with what's happening here. For us to use some of these tools, we need to have an asset or something to work with here. So for now, I'm just going to click on this rectangle tool. You will notice that once you click on a tool, all of the properties associated with the tools becomes highlighted here. For example, if I click on the rectangle tool and I draw a rectangle here in the center, now I can see all of the attributes connected to this shape that I've just created. So anytime you create a shape or use any of these tools, the properties that are associated with that tool gets highlighted here at the right hand side. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool, which by the way, the shortcut is V. So now I can actually select this shape, and here at the bottom where you have the fill color, I could change the color of that shape. All right. Same thing, if I come right here at the extreme right, I could also change the color of that shape. So you have two options where you can change the color of the shapes you created. If I select the shape I've created and I come to the properties, I can see that right now my stroke color is gray. I can actually change it if I want to, and I can change the stroke size by dragging this line. So what I want you to do for this first class is to get familiar with creating basic shapes. So I could come here and maybe this time around I want to create an oval shape. So I can draw and stretch. I'm holding down my left mouse button. But if I want to constrain it so that it's perfectly square, I need to hold down Shift, and then I'm going to get a perfectly square shape. Now, I can decide I don't want to work with outlines, so I can select that outline and I can just hit delete. Now I have only the shape without the outline. Notice that all of my shapes are presently on one layer. I could actually distribute this to a different layer, but I'll get to that later. Similarly, I can delete these lines like we did for the circle. Okay. And I could also change the color if I want to. Now, since these two shapes are on the same layer, I could drag this over this shape here, something like this. And then if I click this part of the box, I can actually drag it out and I have a new shape here. So it depends on what you're trying to create. You can actually use shapes to modify an existing shape. For example, if I duplicate this shape by doing Command D on the Mac or Control D, I can actually change this color if I want to. And I could also place this over the initial shape, and if I click here, I can drag this out, and you see I've been able to create multiple shapes. All right, so play around with how to create shapes of your choice, and the next tool I'm going to show you is with this shape, and I can go here and select the selection tool, and notice what happens. If I click at the center, I can move this around, but if I click here at the bottom, notice that my cursor changes. Can you see that? It changes a bit. And what this does is that I can actually drag and reshape this circle. Okay, I can reshape it the way I want just by dragging it from the edge. So this is quite useful if you're trying to modify the shape to look like something else. Now, if you hold down Alt, you can create a very sharp and pointed line or edge. Okay, so just by holding down Alt, you can create a sharp edge. I can hold down Alt again. I can create a sharp edge here and another sharp edge here. And maybe now I can create another sharp edge here. And I'm already creating a human head. Maybe someone with a very pointed nose. Like that. And then I can also modify this shape a bit. Yeah, maybe something like that. So you can see how just by using this selection tool, you can create interesting shapes. So what I'm going to do before I call it a wrap here is I can create a new circle. And once again, I'm going to take out the lines. If I drag this over here, do this. So I place it over the shape and I'll select the other one. I can drag it out. And now I've created something that looks like an eye socket. Please play around with it and see you in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe so you can have access to new videos. And I'll see you in the next class. Bye for now.